Hey everybody, it's Donna Cravata, and we're here again for yet another, I believe it's the 62nd Real 50 Over 50 interview with Carol Iacobucci. And she is a speaker, an author, an educator, a certified DreamBuilder Coach, which I want to know more about, and a life mastery consultant with the Brave Thinking Institute. She helps women over 50 create a life that they love living. Welcome, Carol.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you.
I'm happy to have you here today. So let's dive right in with what changed for you when you turned 50 or 60?
Well, right around 59, 60, um, my husband had been sick for a while and he wasn't working. I was like the main breadwinner and I, was working all the time. But he was starting to get a little bit better. And he had gone down to Florida with some friends, and I was going to meet him down there later. And before I got a chance to get down there, he passed away while he was there. So it was like really unexpected. I mean, even though he had been sick for a long time, um, it was really unexpected. And so it was this huge change of identity, right? It was like, you know, I went through all the gamut of emotions, right? I was obviously sad, upset. I felt guilty because I wasn't there, because I thought if I was there, I would be able to help him. Um, and I was mad that this happened. All those different emotions you go through. And I really got to a point where I wasn't sure who I was anymore. I really kind of lost my identity. And at the same time, work was getting really crazy. We had gotten bought out by another company. It wasn't the same anymore. And I really felt like, I didn't really belong there anymore. And so I retired about not even a year later after he passed. So here I was. I lost my identity as a wife. I lost my identity as a manager at this company. And I'm thinking, well, who am I? And I needed to kind of reinvent myself. Who did I want to be?
And who did you want to be? Did you know? Or
No,
was it?
I had no idea. I had no idea. I did know that I wanted to find another life partner, another love in my life, which I was blessed and fortunate to find. And I did know that I wanted to do something to bring, use my talents and bring purpose and share information to the world. Because I've been a lifelong learner.
Mhm.
I'm an MBA. I've got learning, studying Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer and Mary Morrissey and Tony Robbins, all these people for years. And so I have a lot of information, but I wanted to find a way to be able to
To put it
integrate it
together.
and share it.
Yeah. So now this has been an interesting topic that's been coming up on some of the conversations that I've been having. You had a long career in manufacturing and IT, and like when you left that, what did you take with you and what did you leave behind? Like, because you had to go through a process like evaluating the skills you had, the education you had, the experiences, relationships. So, like, how did that play out?
Well, I remember the day after I retired, you know, actually about a month after I retired, somebody asked me, well, what do you miss? And I said, when I walked away, I said the next day I was done. I didn't miss anything. It was kind of like I had completed that part of my
Mhm.
life.
Yeah.
And I tied it up with a bow and I said, okay, it was parts of it were great, parts of it weren't so great. And I just kind of left it behind. But I guess the experiences that I got from it, or the learning that I got from it, um, one of them was like project management.
Mhm.
I was really skilled at the time in project management. And it's kind of funny because I'm wondering, am I that skilled for myself in project management now? Maybe not so. So now that you brought this topic up, I'm thinking I need to pull those skills back out and get a little more organized.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when I left my job, I've been out of there close to 18 years now. But I I had this whole mentality of that was then and this is now, and I refused to do anything that I did in my job. And then it started to kind of sneak its way back in. And the
Mm.
first time I did a training, somebody that was on the training instant messaged me and she goes, "How long have you been doing this? You're really good at it." I was like, "That was my first one." She was, "That was clearly not the first time you did that." And I said, "Oh, well, I was a corporate trainer for 10 years in my job. I guess I still do that."
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that because when I did do a few live events, they went in-person events, and they went really smoothly. And I guess that goes back to the corporate training and the presentations we had to make, and yeah,
Yeah,
so
because
those kind of skills still kind of stick with you.
and the thing that makes me curious about this question is that I think we kind of, as we're reinventing ourselves, we kind of feel like we need to burn down all the ships and start over,
Hmm.
and we don't,
No.
because we have this whole foundation of who we are and what we're good at and what we like to do that we've built. And I always like to learn what people like took with them, left behind, how they made that, how they kind of sifted through, 40 or 50 years of experience.
Oh yeah, yeah. With over 40 years through different companies.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And
And
I guess part of the IT part too, because I did work in IT for a long time, though corporate IT, especially when you're working for a defense contractor with
mm,
everything behind the firewall, is
yeah,
totally different than, social media.
yeah.
So I'm always learning, but I guess maybe I pick it up a little quicker because I have that IT background.
Yeah, yeah, there's gotta be that open-mindedness of, like, this is always gonna change, right? Like, it's not, you can't follow one set of rules, and that's gonna last for the next 40 years. And I
Right.
think when we worked in the early days of IT, that kind of conditioned us for that. Because I did too, like, I was early on with computers and, um,
Yeah.
I used to I learned how to fix them. So I would work the midnight shift, and they would pay me boatloads of money back then
Mhm.
because I was able to do the work and fix the machines when they broke, which was
Right.
awesome.
Wow, well, we probably called you in. I was in the night shift too in operations with the big old computers and the raised floor with the air
Yeah,
conditioning
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
desks that looked like, cake pans and,
Yep. Yeah, we had all of that. No, I worked in a law firm, and the law firm would pay me to stay late and do the work and fix the machines when they broke so that they didn't have to call somebody in.
oh,
So let's get into the work that you're doing now. Like,
yeah.
let's talk about what is a dream builder coach? I'm curious.
Yes, a Dream Builder Coach. Well, this is the Dream Builder program is a program that Mary Morrissey put together over, using 40 to 45 years of her studying and working with people. And it's actually like a 12-week program that goes over 10 principles that help you move from and understand where you are now, how to create a dream, because, many of us have forgotten how to dream. We don't even think it's
Yeah,
possible for us, especially over 50
yeah,
or over 60. We think, oh, those days are behind me. But they're not. As long as we're living and breathing, we can dream and we can do something new and different. So it's tapping into the fact that we can dream and how to dream. How do you create a dream or vision? We have some rules around that, like you want to make it present tense. You want to make it real clear. What is the picture? You think about going to a builder and saying, I want you to build me my best home that's going to be, comfortable and friendly and open that people want to come to. And he's going to say, well, that's great, but what does that look like? And so that we have to do the same thing with our dreams. We need to get real clear about them. So it goes through a whole process of how to create a dream, how to test it. And this is an interesting twist too. You don't test the dream to see if you're worthy of the dream. You test the dream to see if the dream is worthy of you, your time.
Ooh.
Yes, your time, your energy, your life force that you're putting into it. Is it really, worthy of that? And then it goes through all the different processes that, as soon as we have a dream and we're ready to go for it, what do we hit? We hit barriers. We hit all of the fear. We hit the limiting paradigms and voices and thoughts that have been with us through our whole life. Many from the time that we were kids that helped us deal with situations then, but all through, 60 years, we're using that same method we did when we were 5. And obviously it's, we can change it. We can, we can change it, and we can deal with things differently and learn to get beyond those fears.
Yeah.
So it goes from the dream building to the transition to what we call the becoming. And really through the whole process, even if your dream, you didn't get 100%, it's kind of who you become along the way, the things you learn, because there's different tools. They call them dream building tools, like notice what you're noticing. What are you noticing? What are your thoughts? We have all these thoughts going through our head all the time, thousands and thousands of them, and they rule our life. And if we don't pay any attention to what they are, we don't even know what's ruling our life. Right? So noticing what you're noticing, and you can notice a thought and you can say, is this thought contractive? Is it bringing me down? Or is this thought expansive and giving me life energy, right? And we go for those thoughts. So that's kind of, the whole, we go through this process to help us define that and get over the hurdles and, learn some tools to help us move forward.
That sounds really fun.
It actually is. It's really good. It's a good program, and it's got a lot of good information, and it's a fun process to go through.
And like, you take clients through that process, and
Yes.
how long does that typically take?
It's a 12-week. It's a 12-week program. Mm-hmm.
All right, but it's all done in those 12 weeks, and that's it?
Yeah, but it's something that, you get tools with it. You get worksheets and audios and videos, and it's something that you can do over and over again. And I've had clients that have gone through the program twice because they reached one level of goals, but now they had a new level of goal, and they didn't want to do it on their own, so they went through the whole process again. And so it's a process that you can, use to address different goals that you have in different areas of your life.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because we're not done.
Oh no, we're never done. And
we're never done.
It kind of breaks it down into 4 areas. It looks at your health and well-being, your mental health, your spiritual health, your physical health. It looks at your relationships. It could be significant other, it could be friends, it could be coworkers. It looks at your vocation, where you're spending your time and energy. And then it looks at time and money freedom. Are you bringing in enough money to do the things that you want? Or are you bringing in so much money and spending so much time doing it that you don't have any time to enjoy it? So it's looking at balance, kind of a balance through all those, 4 quadrants.
Yeah, it sounds like there's probably some boundaries built in there as well.
Sure. Yes.
And one of the things that we touched on before we started the interview was emotions and emotional intelligence. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yes. Well, what's interesting is, when I was first looking for what I was going to do, I went online and signed up with a bunch of different groups. And I met a group of ladies, and we decided to write a book. And so we wrote a book called Belonging, Secrets to Soothe the Soul. And it was really during the time of, COVID was just starting, and people were really isolated. And we started talking about that and looking at that. And we said, there were different times during our lives where we didn't feel like we belonged anywhere. And, we talked about all the emotions that came up with that, feeling sad and isolated and, just not good enough. And all the things that come to us when we feel like we don't belong. And then we talked about, well, what does belonging really mean? And at the end of the day, we really belong to ourselves.
Yeah.
And it goes to the idea of self-confidence, self-worth. And so there were 9 of us that we each wrote a chapter of our own experience with belonging. And since that book, we decided to start a second one called Believing.
Mhm.
So we're working on that, right? We're working on believing the secrets to soothe the soul. And we're looking at maybe a whole chain. We're not sure. But out of that, in our discussions about emotions and emotional intelligence, a group of us started talking about, teenagers, especially teenage girls, and all the emotions that they go through, and they don't know how to handle it. They don't know how to handle um, living up to the images that are put out there by society, by magazines, by music, by books,
Mhm.
all of that. And so we wanted to find a way to create scenarios to show them different ways to handle the scenario. Um, and we thought about gamifying it.
Mhm.
So a group of us are working on that now to look at how we can create games to bring up scenarios with different um, responses. There could be in a scenario and we're like, well, what happens if I'm angry in this scenario? What's my response? Or what happens if I'm disappointed, right?
Mhm.
Or what happens if I'm happy and I look at the scenario from a different perspective? And so it offers alternatives in a non-threatening, non-judgmental, um, non-judgmental way. And
Yeah.
then we thought, wow, well, this is a great idea that we can expand not just to teenagers, but family dynamics,
Mhm.
marriage. You can have several
Mhm.
scenarios in a marriage, and now it's, Mary and Bob did this.
Mhm.
So it's not pointing a finger directly at your partner. It's, Mary and Bob, and, how can Mary and Bob handle this situation?
Yeah,
You know,
and, it sounds like, it will be, accepting that all emotions matter.
well, exactly. Because, when we started, I told you about how when my husband passed away, I went through all those emotions. And um, a friend of mine gave me a book about, dealing with death and sorrow. And it was interesting because in that book, it talked about all the emotions that I was feeling. And it says, it's okay. It's okay to feel that emotion. It's okay to feel mad. I was mad. You know,
Mhm.
he could have taken better care of himself, or I could have been there to help him. I was mad, right?
Mhm.
I was angry. Why did this have to happen to us?
Mhm.
I was sad. It took me a while to process it and try and move forward. But those are human, natural emotions,
Yeah.
and it's okay to feel them and go through them. What we don't want to do is get stuck in it, you know,
Yeah, or ignore them altogether.
or ignore them. Exactly,
Then
either
it
way.
manifests every other way.
Right? You start ignoring these emotions, and they go into illness in your body, disease. Right?
Yeah.
Um, and if you get stuck in one emotion, then you can't see opportunities
Mhm.
around you.
Yeah, and those opportunities, they're all there.
They're all there.
They're all there. You have to be looking for them, or they go to somebody else. Elizabeth Gilbert in her book, Big Magic, I
Oh, yeah.
love the way she describes that, opportunities will come to us, and if we don't take them, they go to somebody else.
Yeah, yeah, they're there. Um, and that's the part of what I find in the life mastery part. We learn about not only our thoughts and emotions and our 5 senses that we use to interact in this human world, right? But we have also 6 mental faculties that
Mhm.
help us connect with the infinite. And those 6, one of them is imagination.
Mhm.
Imagine what we could be doing different. And if you're stuck in an angry, um, judgmental, you know, emotion, you're not using your imagination to see what else is possible, right?
No.
So we want to, it's this whole level of vibrations and frequencies where anger and bitterment, are all the lower vibration, and then we move up maybe to disappointment, but then we can move up to joy and
Mhm.
gratitude,
Yeah.
to be grateful for what we have around us.
And you can turn that into a practice.
Yes, absolutely. With affirmations, you can get up every day and you can say, who am I going to be today?
Mhm.
And you can decide, I am going to be a person who is happy, who does something fun, who's energetic, who's going to accomplish something today that I've always wanted to accomplish. I'm going to be creative. I'm going to paint. I'm going to sing. I'm going to, you can do anything.
Mhm.
You can decide every morning what that's going to be.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be the same thing.
No, it doesn't.
So what of the 6 mental, faculties, what are the other 5?
Okay, let me see if I can remember them all. There's, of course, imagination, which is very important. Thomas Edison, is more important than anything. There's intuition, right? That's that, when we don't listen to that little mind, little voice in our mind telling us, do this or don't do that. And when we don't listen to it, we always think, why didn't I listen to that? Because it's
Yeah.
always so right on, you know. There's memory, and this is interesting because, like in the Alice in Wonderland, the queen says it's a poor memory that only looks back and doesn't look forward, right? Paraphrasing. So when we think about memory, well, we want to use our memory to remember our dreams. So we need to write our dream, where we're going, what we want to have, what we want to accomplish. And then we want to remember that every day. And we want to come from the frequency of that dream,
Mhm.
the energy of that dream. So that's memory. And then there's reason. And it's not about being reasonable, right? It's a different kind of reason. And then there's will, and that's pretty much like it's a little different from willpower, because willpower is kind of a force energy. That's like holding that,
Mhm.
ball underwater. You can only hold it there for so long and then it pops up, right? That's pure willpower. But this is a different kind of will. It's a
Yeah.
will from your desire.
Like willing it to happen instead of hoping for it to happen.
Yes, and going out and taking the steps to make it happen, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and then there's one more that I had and it just left me. I think it's perception, possibly. I might have that last one incorrect.
Well, that's interesting. I'm gonna play with those.
Yeah.
Um, and so let's talk a little bit about, confidence, clarity, and, like, how just stepping into those 2 things can really shift your life and shift your direction.
Yeah, it can. The confidence is really self-confidence. They
Yeah.
say Maxwell Maltz tells us that we can never outlive our own self-image.
Mhm.
So if we don't see ourselves being a person who could be a coach, then you'll never be a coach, no matter how hard you try, because you have to have the self-image of yourself doing it. And we can build that self-image.
Mhm.
Right? We can grow that self-image. And from there, we get then the confidence to take the steps necessary to move forward. And it's something that we have to do every day.
Mhm.
We don't decide, oh, I decided for my dream, I'm going to have it. And then that's it. Because all the other things come in the way, right, that are going to stop us. So it's something, the confidence of doing it day after day, over and over, and giving ourselves permission to fail, to have
Mhm.
fear. Fear doesn't go away. It's bringing fear along with us on the
Mm.
process. All those things that stop us, delay, dissuasion, they're there to keep us safe, right? But they're very tricky. They don't tell you, I'm here to keep you safe, or I'm here to kill your dream. They tell you things like, now's not a good time.
Mhm.
Um, you're being irresponsible, because you want to spend this money on this training that you want to do, or whatever you want to do. So it has these, these very subtle tactics. It knows how to talk to us to stop us, right?
Yeah.
And so building up our own confidence and building up our own self-awareness allows us to say, well, thank you, fear, for pointing that out to me. But we got this now, and we're going to move to the next step.
And that's actually listening to your intuition.
It is. It's listening to your intuition and going into, you need to know where you're going, right? And that's your imagination and building your dream. And then you use your intuition to say, well, what's the next step that's right for me? And you start to see different synchronicities come into play.
Yeah.
Like my opportunity to speak with you today.
Yeah.
I was working with Karen, and Karen told me about your podcast and your interviews. And I said, wow, I'd like to do that. And I signed up many, many months ago, and here we are.
Here we are. I mean, it blew up fast. It started with only people that I knew, and then I was introduced to people from people I knew. There's nobody that just randomly showed up, maybe one person, but everyone has been introduced or somebody that I know. And I started it, March was a year. And within like 2 weeks, I had like 40 interviews booked.
Wow.
So, and now we're booked all the way into February of 2025.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's been incredible. It's been incredible, like having these conversations and hearing people's stories and watching people connect in different ways. I was putting together our upcoming panel, and one of the panelists emailed me, and she was like, "I know this one and this one and this one and this one, but I don't know this one. I'm gonna go meet her." And I was like, "Well, how did you?" Like I was just trying to decipher like how she connected with everybody because I want to see like where the connections happen through this. So she knew two of the women and one she knew from here, and I just love watching that because now like it's my whole vision for this when I started was what could be possible when we start doing things together.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And it's happening, it's happening. I'm starting to see people interview each other and people do things together. And, even if it's just commenting on each other's social posts, it's like, ah, yes, this works. Because we can do more together than we can individually.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would have never written a book if I hadn't met those ladies and they said, hey, let's write a book. And I was like, okay. So, and I guess the other thing is you have to be willing. You have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
Bob Proctor had this. It's a video, you can find it on YouTube, where he talks about the terror barrier. The terror barrier being our, the barrier of fear, which is really what we've known, what we've done before versus what we've never done before.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
And what you want is right on the other side of that.
Yes, exactly.
In most cases. Yeah, it's amazing. Like when I started to, step into this world, it was probably 2010. I left my job in 2006. And I just kept going on as I was going on, like doing what I did, but I did it from home. But like when my first reaction to this whole world of like you can actually decide what you want to do and make it happen, it was mind blowing because, my mother just set us up to, well, you're all going to go do whatever you need to do to take care of me. And, everything was based on that until like she died.
Wow.
But I was just mind blown by the whole thing. I remember I went to one like mastermind type event thing, and the woman who hosted it had this enormous whiteboard on the stage, and she had people from the audience yelling out words. Either it was something that was a positive word or something that held them back, and she wrote them all down on the whiteboard, and then she read them out one by one, and she said, stand up or sit down whenever you hear one that feels like you, right? My thighs were on fire. after she finished that because every single one of those words. And I was like, oh my goodness, I have some work to do.
That's wild. That's really cool. Well, what that shows us is that we're all go through the same things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, we all go through the same things. And again, helping each other, working together, helps us know that we're not alone and that we can do things together. We can accomplish great things together.
Yeah. Yeah, we can. And on that note, one of the we're at a half an hour, and one of the ways that I like to end these conversations is to ask for a wisdom bomb, a little nugget, something you want to leave people with. It could be something actionable or just something that's meaningful.
There's a saying, I think it's from the Talmud. It says, God whispers to a blade of grass, grow, grow, grow. And that blade of grass will go through cement to grow. So if you think of God whispering to a blade of grass, just think what he's whispering to us.
Oh,
Through our intuition, through our imagination, and, to take some time to listen to that and follow it.
that's beautiful. Thank you. And thank you for joining us today. And
Thank you for having me.
everybody, connect with Carol at thecarolconnection.com, and she's on the Real 50 Over 50 webpage. And if you have any questions or comments as you're listening to a replay of this, please tag us and we'll come back and we'll keep the conversation going. We will be back next week with another interview, and we will for months and months and months and months. And again, Carol, thank you for spending some time with us today and for sharing your wisdom.
Oh, thank you very much, Danny. Thank you for everything you're doing, too.
Thanks. It's my pleasure.